OWS Week has weathered the one percenters of cyber attacks to bring the sounds and images of 99ers struggle to you. Californian students were up in arms last week to decry the education cuts in their state. Lakota Native Americans rose up to the protest, the rape of resources and the damage to their reservation as planned by the XL pipeline, and women poured out to highlight the lack of progress on the women's rights issues. Oh, we nearly forgot, our weekly interview is also on the menu.
With the coming of spring, the second wave of America's Occupy movement is beginning in the public education sector, this time in colleges. An early example is evident in the state of California, where its governor, Jerry Brown, is pressed to address the state's staggering $9.2 billion budget deficit. One aspect of that is his proposal to cut his state's public education costs, severely affecting average low-income students trying to qualify for or keep financial aid. A public rally supported by university administrators and student associations formed on the western lawn of the Capitol building in Sacramento, culminating in a much smaller group peacefully occupying the common area of the state Capitol building. In defense of the protest, which asked legislators to look at a much more proactive way to fund its public university systems, California's own Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom lent his support, saying, "You cannot have an economic development strategy without a workforce development strategy." Indeed, the Occupy protesters had asked that rather than deprive students of critically necessary financial aid, that two measures be placed on the state's ballot for a vote in the name of affordable education. One, proposing an income tax hike on the state's wealthiest. The second, proposing a tax on oil extraction. That nonviolent protest led to 72 people being charged with trespassing and being dragged away to jail by authorities.
It's kind of an interesting place to be behind a camera because you hear things more than you might actually see things. You may be focused on music or something going on in the foreground through a camera lens, but you're hearing things too, and it's amazing how people behave when there's a camera in the room. Their stories change, their voices change, their attitude changes. Sometimes they perk up, sometimes they hide, sometimes they avoid the camera altogether. And it's interesting for me to do this because I'm usually behind the camera, I'm not in front of it, and I'm a writer. I'm a photojournalist is what I have pinned myself down to. And it's not due to any training, it's just, I fell into this, and it has been the most amazing ride since Occupy occurred. There have just been some amazing stories to tell and witness, and the thing that started to worry me is that I wasn't seeing it on mainstream media, and that's a really big issue because mainstream media has a huge impact on our culture. Because if you're only seeing a certain portion of what's going on in the world, that's going to impact how you think and how you react and emote and function in this world. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people are basically told what to think. And there really isn't a whole lot of background information shared in mainstream media here. There's a lot of background information that's shared more often in comedy, which is bizarre to me. One of the more popular shows here is The Daily Show and The Colbert Report, which I don't know if it's syndicated where you are. But these are comedy shows written for a network called Comedy Network, and they get more viewers than like Fox News, which is another network that's owned by Rupert Murdoch. It's this insidious, horrible network. But my point is, you can't get really good information from mainstream media. It's literally impossible, not without having something rammed down your throat that you're supposed to buy or wear or purchase, keeping up with the neighbors and who's got the best flat panel and who's got the best car and the best gadget, and I need to get rid of that because there's a new one coming out. and it's just really wasteful. I'm the kind of person that will reuse everything. I mean, I'd say 5 or 6 years ago, a lot of people would just call me, a lot of people called me cheap. Turns out I'm a reuser. I'm a green person. And it didn't have anything to do with, you know, not wanting certain things, but you know, necessity is the mother of invention. So you do what you can with what you got. And I have reached out to a lot of people with a little tower and a PC that I built by myself, and a little ingenuity and some writing and some inspiration and music. And you know, I have a website that started 2 years ago, and it's got almost 15,000 hits on it. So it's you know, the message can come in any package, and it doesn't have to be a fancy package. But if you know, if it rings true with you, if it resonates with you, that's really all that matters. And if you know the person that is doing the work behind it, you know, is concerned about their integrity and why they do what they do, then you feel comfortable receiving information from people that feel that it's just as important as they do. And it's sorely missing from journalism, and it's sorely missing from the music industry too.
Almost everyone has heard about big oil and its corporate influence on all branches of the U.S. government. A prime example of current collusion between politicians and dirty energy is the tar sands Keystone XL pipeline, now under construction from Canada to Texas. Not too many people have heard of Wombly, South Dakota, situated in Oglala Lakota Nation, but on March 5th, Lakota tribe members took a stand there and stopped pipeline trucks from using reservation land. People who have occupied their land for centuries defended it, leading us to wonder about Native American involvement in OWS. Native Americans have been involved in OWS since the beginning. There has been, however, a certain amount of skepticism from indigenous people about the activists.
Appropriation of lands and everything else, and slavery made them the richest in the world. So right now, we're here to give voice for our people, the Native American Indian people here.
Several Native bloggers saying they hope the folks fighting for justice, equality, and an end to imperialism would recognize the fact that the land occupied by activists is stolen indigenous land. Many Native Americans have embraced the movement, lending wisdom from ancient ways and pointing out present-day consequences of colonialism still endured on reservations. Some see the global awakening as fulfillment of ancient tribal prophecies.
Today I was talking to my friend. Her name is Deborah Whiteplume. She's a Lakota woman from Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and we were just talking about how it was prophesized Ma Didagua, which means a long time ago, and about this really, but it was hundreds of years ago that our old chiefs and our old ones were talking about this, and they were saying there's going to come a time when the earth is going to rise up because she's going to have to cleanse herself.
There are a lot of wonderful documentaries and independent music outlets, venues, musicians, places online to find the most amazing storytellers, and just a whole generation of music that's not getting airplay. But they're still playing stuff that was on the radio 10 years ago, and you have to wonder how can culture evolve if it's a broken record? You know, if your record is skipping, you take it off and you put another one on. And that's kind of how I feel that the culture, the arts they're stuck in a rut. They're skipping, and it's not something that we want to. We don't want corporations to have control over the culture of our people. We're going to lose so much, and young people really deserve better. And there are a lot of us out here who are working towards that and hoping that others will too. And the Occupy movement is a great step forward in that direction. The independent press and the social media and the community and all of these important issues being raised in an independent press, a citizens press, and an underground press. And it's really exciting to witness because it gives people hope, and people are enjoying themselves and they're having fun doing it because it's coming from here. And mainstream can't come from here because this here has been bought off. And when this is bought off, this isn't going to function properly. So you have to be able to make decisions based on good information. And when that information is being withheld or edited or censored, there's obviously things being hidden that shouldn't be hidden. And, I won't go into a long list of things that aren't being discussed, but the truth is there's probably not a whole lot that can be discussed because I don't think our government has a really good plan to deal with it. So it's kind of time for artists and writers, journalists to scoop up that culture and cradle it, because we cannot leave it in the hands of the people who are buying it out right now. It's too precious a thing to sell. And this is where it's important to engage politically when we're talking about constitutional rights and democracy, because free speech is there's a reason it's called the First Amendment. They made it first. And the Second Amendment in this country is, the right to carry and own a gun. Simply because of government. In case your government decides to lose its mind, you have protection from tyranny.
This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like!
On March 3rd, a group of protesters, including veterans of Occupy Richmond, gathered peacefully on the steps of the Virginia state capitol to protest the state's latest assault on women's rights, in a ploy to distract public attention from the growing divide between rich and poor. Agents of the 1% in government and media across the country are crusading against women's rights and employment. The Richmond protesters were surrounded by riot police and dragged away under the guns of a SWAT team armed with automatic weapons. A startling reminder that the war on women is real and an obvious effort to divide the 99%. March 8th was International Women's Day. International Women's Day is rooted in the struggle for economic and social justice.
We have programs in microfinance, in health, in education, women's empowerment, legal aid. We started in Bangladesh in 1971, and this is our 40th year anniversary. We're here today because of the girl effect, and we believe that we have to invest in girls and women to bring about a change in the world.
Women Occupy called on the Occupy movement to rise up, and Occupy Bank of America in support of women-led campaigns to stop its ecological and economic violence. The policies and actions of BOA, such as predatory lending, investment in environmentally destructive practices, and the foreclosure crisis, all disproportionately impact women. Occupy Wall Street stands in solidarity with women and all oppressed people targeted by government control and economic violence. Events of the past week highlighted that fact.
I kind of look at the First Amendment as the non-violent option in revolution, and we have to use it. We have to keep using it. We have to keep using it in a non-violent way. We have to keep speaking plainly and keep our ears and eyes open and speak honestly and come from here and make sure that we're listening, because we haven't been able to do that with each other for a very long time, and learning that skill takes time. So My involvement with the Occupy movement kind of came in a roundabout way. It was sort of a lot of investigating. I was doing a lot of research on peak oil and resource depletion and environmental issues. And I was just seeing amendment rights being whittled away, and it's been troubling for me for a while. I marched in D.C. in 2006, and it's interesting to note that some older people in my family thought I was going through a phase by marching on D.C., and they're beginning to realize that it wasn't a phase. There's still a lot to protest, and members of my family are very excited now. They're seeing what's happening with Occupy, and they're very excited about it. And to be part of this movement has been a great honor, and I'm so inspired, and I'm so inspired by the people out there that are doing so much more than I could be doing, and I wish I could do more. I fell into a trip with a friend of mine who is a cameraman. We went from Portland, Oregon, all the way to Phoenix, Arizona, and we did it in a truck that was falling apart with camera equipment and a megaphone, and we stopped and talked to all of these amazing people in these Occupy camps, and I'm currently working on a documentary about that. But these things take time and man hours, and it takes a little while to get these things accomplished when you don't have a director or a budget, or it has to be done in spare time because life happens, things get in the way, and you have to take care of business on a daily basis. And the news changes so quickly, it's hard to keep up. So when you're basically a 2 or 3 man team, it takes a little while to aggregate information to get it out there. And luckily for me, I've spent about 2 years researching a lot of information, a lot of sources, and I feel like every one of them resonates with me, so I'm able to come from a place that I can share information and be confident that it's as objective as possible, which is a little difficult to do in this day and age when anything involving mainstream media is certainly not objective. So, opinions are opinions, and some are just louder than others. And unfortunately, the loudest ones have the most money, and that says a lot about mainstream media here in the United States, and that's unfortunate.